welcome back to our show. David Murphy is back with us. And, one of those things about contracts and maybe contracts you enter into that you don't always think about is going to be things like your credit card contracts. Maybe it's student loans, maybe it's your mortgage, but all of these debt-creating instruments that you promise you're going to pay back. David Murphy is an absolute credit expert with over 20 years of experience in credit repair. Credit Insider Club is the Pacific Northwest leading most experienced credit repair company. And David, first of all, how are you doing, man? It's good to see you again.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Ben.
Yeah, you got your World Series tie on. You're ready to go.
Go Giants.
There you go. So let's get into this. People are always sign contracts all the time to accumulate debt. And oftentimes, especially when you're young, maybe coming out of college, you just think, well, geez, I'll just sign my name and they're going to give me a credit card. And you're 18. Maybe you haven't really thought it through. But it's not just credit cards. A lot of people are using student loans to go to college. And there's a real cost to that, isn't there?
It can cost anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000 a year in student loans, and that includes housing and expenses that's going to run during the tuition year. So it's getting up there. It's not like the old days where you could get a loan and if you didn't pay it back within 7 years, it came off your credit report. During the Reagan-Bush era, that all changed. The student loans now have to be paid back. You can be old and gray and still have it on your credit report, but you have to pay it back. So, if there's a choice between using credit cards and getting a student loan, you're almost better getting a credit card to help pay for college.
Especially if you're, going to just declare bankruptcy and get rid of all of it, right? So, David, there's this kind of real cost of school, especially college and student loans. Let's just kind of get into it. What is a student loan? How do they kind of operate? And then what can they do to your credit? Because you said, as you were saying, you might be talking about something you have to pay back. It's never going away unless you maybe pay. And you could have $100,000.
That's right. People who go to law school sometimes accrue that type of debt. One of the things is one of the bigger firms out there is Sallie Mae, and this is government-backed. The problem with student loans is if you default on them, it's really the kiss of death on your credit report because you're going to have to pay that off and zero it out. Even if you pay it off, you're still going to have a defaulted student loan on your credit report. That's going to kill you as far as your FICO score. One of the things that I recommend is if you are starting to default, look for another company that you could transfer that loan. You have a defaulted student loan, you start paying on the new loan, and you keep that pays-as-agreed status. Once that's done, then we're able to try and get that defaulted student loan with a zero balance off the credit report. One of the biggest problems is that a lot of times the Social Security of the individual is ingrained into the student ID. So it's really difficult to get off a credit report if your Social Security is sitting there. So one of the things is that I'd rather see people be late on their student loans than default on them. 60, 30, 60, 90.
We'd rather see people pay them.
Yes, or 120 days late. But it's still, we can upgrade that to a pays-as-agreed status if we can get the late pay status off. Once you get to the defaulted student loan, there's no way to get that to a pays-as-agreed status. This is the second most difficult thing to get off a credit report besides bankruptcy.
So, throughout the debates, we've seen, we saw the kids stand up and talk about, going to college and are there jobs afterwards. For a lot of people, there is a huge cost to go to school, and there's not always a financial, light at the end of the tunnel. Partly because I think people go to, this is a whole nother topic, but partly because people are going to college for something that really doesn't provide them anything, communications degrees and things where it's just like, I'm just going to college to go to college because I heard it's the right thing to do. Here I am on the radio talking about communications degrees. But, there's an element of how if somebody goes to college, they think they're doing the right thing, and maybe now they're not making enough money to pay back these student loans. Is there a deferral? I mean, how long do you have to get a job?
You have 12 months. Once you stop going to classes, you've got 12 months before that deferral kicks in and you have to start making regular payments, month in and month out. I mean, this is an installment payment. Usually it's not a huge amount, less than a car payment, but you have to be consistent. And don't think that the loan is going to give you a notification. You've got to be on top of it. You've got to contact them and make sure you know when you have to start paying. And make sure they got the right address, too.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of times you can end up with all sorts of student loans. I mean, you can end up with one per quarter or one per semester, whatever school you go to. And, so you talk about how it's on you it could be on you to find 20 different banks.
There can be multiple credit listings of student loans on your credit report. And the problem is if you start missing one, then it's like dominoes, 30, 60, 90, and they don't apply it to the right loan. It can be crucial. It can be crucial in the future when you're trying to get a home.
Or trying to get a job.
Nowadays, they're pulling a credit report when you are doing an interview. They want to know how you handle money. If you're going to be handling a company's money, they want to know how you handle your own money.
Sure. We're here with David Murphy, Director of Operations with Credit Insider Club. So, David, when you start looking at the ways to pay these things back, I mean, it's a monthly payment. And what are some of the reasons, I guess, what are some of the ways that people can... Is there any way to get around it? Like, look, I still don't have a job. Is there anything somebody can do to maybe defer it out longer? Or once that clock starts ticking, is it just ticking?
It's ticking, but, here's the other option. Your parents can also qualify for a loan for you. You can also have them pay the loan and then you pay back your parents. So you know that you're getting that month in and month out payment on time.
Now you sound like Mitt Romney, right? You just go borrow money from your parents to go to college?
Yeah. Well, and, Obama has said that if he gets in for the next 4 years, that after 10 years, he's going to eliminate the debt to student loans. Now, we'll see if that's the case, but that's not something that Mitt Romney has brought up. But student debt is killing lots of people here, and the problem is there's not enough jobs out there right now.
Well, I think the other problem is you have a huge rising cost of tuition and then a job market that really isn't rising with the cost of tuition. So even if you come out, it's not such a small percentage of your income that you have to pay back. I think one of the biggest pieces here, and we're kind of going beyond credit, but one of the biggest pieces here is, for people who go to college, there is an element of taking some responsibility within what you're going to study and what your outcome is. I think for a long time, including when I went to college and a lot of my friends, you just kind of went and then you came out and you do something that had nothing to do with your major at all. You just kind of find something that worked. Nowadays, it seems like there's a lot more hyper-specialization, and people who come out with a focus can have a much higher probability of getting those jobs and being able to repay their student loans if they have them.
Yeah. It used to be that you just wanted to get the degree because you're right. The likelihood of going into what you got your degree in wasn't very likely. And now you've got to be more defined on what you want for a job.
Yeah, let me tell you, I went to University of Arizona, and it wasn't because they have a great educational program. David, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. Again, David Murphy, Director of Operations from Credit Insider Club. We do have to go, but when we come back, we are going to continue this conversation and get into the real estate side of things with Lisa Hampton. You're listening to Brashenomics.